When I first started teaching high school English and I would go to parent-teacher conferences, I would regularly see parents that looked something like this. They were frustrated. They would tell me without fail they had high schoolers who hated to read and they were just at their wits' end. They weren't sure how to get a child to read, how to make that a part of their habits, a part of their lives. And I, in all of my 21-year-old glory, would say, they just need to read more. I'm sure they'll develop a love for it. And parents interpreted that as, please lock your child in their bedroom with a book and they'll figure out how to read and love it. It turns out that we don't actually learn to love reading this way. In fact, using reading as a punishment is a really bad idea if we want kids to like books. As I got older and had my own children, I started to explore what were those things that I could do to help them learn to love reading. These are my kids. They're all in middle school and they all like books. And I've developed some sort of key strategies that I use with them and have used with them to help develop their love of reading, their love of ideas. I think one of the first keys is that we start early. As soon as that child comes home from the hospital, they need to be read to on a regular basis. In fact, I would even say start pre-utero. Use that big belly as a book prop to read books to your kids. They should learn to associate reading with love and warmth. You gather them up in your lap and you read these stories to them, and they learn that reading means love and relaxation and enjoyment. And don't feel like you have to read the whole book. Show them pictures, ask them questions, talk about it, be silly, use voices. The point at this age is to just help them to learn to have a positive association with books. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying toddlers will not sit still. And you're absolutely right. They won't. That's okay. Let them wiggle, let them get down, let them go do something else. They will come back and they will learn to appreciate being able to read a story. As they get older, you'll get through more of it. But when they're little, you just want that positive association. The next thing you want to do is be sure that you're surrounding your kids with books. There should be piles of books in the living room. There should be bookshelves in their rooms. There should be bookshelves in the bathroom if you need to. You want them to have books everywhere so that when they have a down moment, as we know they will, they're going to pick up a book. This is my youngest. She was a squirrely bird as a toddler. My other two were easy to read to. They liked to sit and focus, and she did not. So I used boredom to my advantage. When she was bored, there were books everywhere around her. And eventually, she started picking up those books and learning to really love them. By limiting her screen time, I got her involved in those stories. The next thing is you want to love your library. You want to be the crazy person that walks into the library with a laundry basket to haul home your books. Check out lots and lots of books in different genres, high quality picture books, high interest books, things that kids are really going to love. Is going to help. Now, I'm going to tell you, you are going to pay some fines. You're going to have overdue books, you're going to have lost books, you're going to have books with torn pages. But I say that's a small price to pay if over a lifetime, I develop a reader. I figure I'm just paying a little extra tax to my library because we truly love it and regularly have over 50 books checked out. The other thing we check out at the library are audiobooks. I say as soon as a child has the attention span to sit and listen to a story, start them on audiobooks. For my kids, this was around age 3. We started listening to audiobooks at nap time. We started listening to them in the car. We had audiobooks around because not only do we want to learn to love books, but we want to learn to love stories. In our case, we took old phones and turned them into listening devices, downloaded audiobooks from the library, got a set of headphones that were safe for kids, and then used those all the time. In fact, my oldest, when he was about 3, he developed this really strange British accent. And when people would meet him, they'd say, "Oh, did you live overseas for a while?" And I'd say, "No, he just listens to audiobooks with British narrators." That's where he's getting the British accent from. But along the way, he also developed a love for stories and incredible vocabulary that has served him well right up till this day. And I think that audiobooks had a huge part in that, in helping kids tackle books. The other thing that I would say is that we should value all reading, fiction, nonfiction, newspapers, all sorts of genres. These are all important and valued. Sometimes we think that the only reading is fiction, and it's just not true. Now, I will warn you, your children will bring home genres that you yourself would not pick. For example, my children love fantasy. This is one of their favorite books, and I just can't make it through it. But that's okay. They're developing their personalities and their preferences as a reader, and so I celebrate it with them. I talk with them about their crazy fantasy stories, even though they're not my favorite. They are theirs, and what I'm trying to develop is a passion in them as readers. Now, that includes all sorts of nonfiction. Even magazines are valid, important reading in our household. There are some amazing magazines out there, even for toddlers. And we want to value all of those reading options and make them all available to our kiddos because it's going to help them to develop that love of reading. We also want to make sure that kids are seeing us read. We have a tendency to sort of read on a tablet or on a phone, but I would argue that so that kids realize exactly what you're doing, you should pick up real books and let them see you reading those books, enjoying those books, talking about those books, because it becomes a part of your family culture that we value books. Now, if you're starting late, don't despair. It's still possible to make books an integral part of your child's life, but it means incorporating some of these things, having books around, talking about books as a family. The most important thing is that you aren't punishing with books. You're rewarding with them. There's something fun to talk about, something fun to share as a family, because the real goal is creating a culture of reading, that we are a family who values ideas, who values learning, who values reading, and we show that through everything that we do, and that value is going to be internalized by your kids. Now, I think if we can all come together and incorporate these 6 things, we're going to really start to see some readers who really value ideas. We're going to start early. We're going to completely surround them with books. We're going to take them to the library all the time. We're going to find ways to incorporate audiobooks into our daily lives. We're going to value all reading, and we're going to read in front of our kids so that ultimately we can see them loving reading and loving ideas, which is a lifelong gift. Thanks.